what was happening is this debris canister on the inside has a plunger. That plunger was stuck up, so it wasn't allowing that hole to be sealed. I have here a Thermal Dynamics Cuttmaster 52. Just picked it up recently. Really cheap. Going through it, making sure everything works fine, and found a couple of problems. They're maintenance related issues. So one of the things I want to do is just go through. You're supposed to every 6 months blow out the insides, clean it, get all that debris because the fans suck air in to cool the fins, and then it'll bring debris in. So I want to get in. Also make sure that the voltage was set to single phase. It's got the opportunity for a 3-phase input as well as a single phase input, and I needed to make sure that I was running off of that single phase input. So I've done that, cleaned it, vacuumed it, blown it out, checked all the connections, and then my air tube. You see my air tube inlet has got a problem because it's not connected to the filter. So as I had it hooked up, there was a constant leak that was happening. And so I've taken it apart and found that it was the drain valve on the bottom of the filter bowl. So again, the filter bowl is to take out, not a dryer, to get some of the water out. So the bottom valve, it wasn't seating, and it had some debris that was keeping it stuck in the open position. So I've taken everything apart, cleaned it all. I'm going to put it all back together now and make sure that it works, so I don't have to replace one of these. To get this out, it's got a push connect fitting on this side, but the way that it sits in, the bowl is on the inside of the frame case, and then the rest of it's on the outside. So there's not really anything that attaches it other than just the block in the case and then the back. So it's a 6mm Allen head that goes inside the push connect fitting. So you'll push the tabs in, pull the hose out, and then the 6mm in, and then you can unscrew this fitting, and when you unscrew it all the way out, then the bowl and filter assembly will come out the front side or the back of the machine. So that's what I have right now. It's all taken apart, open it up, clean it, and we're going to put it back together now. Here's all the components that we were going through. So of course, inlet, housing, outlet to the compressor. This is the O-ring that seals the bowl to the inside of that. This directs the airflow in a swirly motion. Air will come into the inside and then through this to catch the debris. This sits on top of the spring, which sits on top of this filter, which then sits inside this piece, sealed to this, where this is the plunger that goes in and out of this body. And then the end of that plunger right there is what seals against this with that little hole in the end of it. So unless this plunger is going up and down within this, that hole will leak air out. You can also push up on it manually from the bottom, and you can see that hole in the side. So this is the spring and the plunger that sits on the outside, and those are what you can manually do to release it. So this is the order of assembly right through here, and we'll put it back together. So it's got a bunch of different little components. It's got a stopper in the bottom that has a hole that runs all the way through it. So even though it's got a rubber seal around the outside to seal on the bottom of the bowl, it also has a hole right in the center. And so what was happening is this debris canister on the inside has a plunger. That plunger was stuck up, so it wasn't allowing that hole to be sealed. There's a little tiny rubber nub on the bottom of this so that as it's in, it will then seal against that tiny hole in the center of the bottom. It's got a spring on the bottom of this, and then a plastic cone, and that's just going to be a press fit on the bottom. So that spring allows that plunger a large area, so if you need to drain a bunch of water, you can manually drain it by pushing it up on the bottom. Next we've got this bolt, I don't know what it would be called, but this is the plunger that goes in it. So that's just going to go inside there. And then on top of that, there's an angled piece with the washer. That washer goes around the bottom and then clips in the top. That washer sticks out a little bit, and so it seals against the body. And then we have our filter screen. And so as you can see, this plunger now goes up and down. Before, this was stuck up and it wasn't moving at all. So we'll drop this whole assembly in. We'll put our spring in the center. And now that spring has to orient. There's a little groove that runs around on the base of this filter. And we'll just make sure that as we push it in, it's lined up. A little bit of pressure on because that spring is holding it open. There we go. I'm going to test it. If I hooked up the air right now, it would just blow out the other side. So I need to put the hose back on. Make sure it's sturdy. And we'll take our air connection. And we're good. No leaks at all. So we'll go ahead and take this hose out. Again, take the hose, just the two tabs, push it towards the body. That'll pop that hose out. I'm going to use my 6mm to take it out. And then once I get this out, I can put this in place from the front side. It's interesting because they say in their user's manual not to use Teflon tape. So either somebody did it on the inside before for this fitting, or it was done from the factory. I'm going to change it out to my thread locker for air fittings. So when assembling this air fitting, I am using my Loctite 545 thread sealant for pneumatic or hydraulic controls. And it's kind of a thick, still runny, red liquid. And so when you put on the fittings, the front and rear, and tighten them in, you do not use thread compound or Teflon tape with it. But when you do put them in, you're supposed to leave it for a minimum of 4 hours before you apply any pressure to it. I know a lot of times you'd be in a hurry and put the fittings in and want to start using it, but it is a 4-hour cure, so that way it doesn't leak. Here the filter assembly is all back inside the case, so this is the only portion that sticks out from the back, just the air fitting and the top of the housing. And then on the inside, you can see it's got the drain bowl and then the air fitting. Now, there's no way for you to manually from the outside do it, and you can see there is a little drain shelf, so if it does automatically drain, it'll just go out the back side. But that is filtered. Again, the instruction manual says take this cover off, blow it out, and clean it every 6 months. Since it's new to me, I wanted to do that, and it was pretty dirty. Everything is connected. I already did a test run, and it works just fine. There is a little bit of a noise. When it does run, a little bit of a noise. What do you think of this noise? Probably. What do you think that is? So it cuts just fine, but I'm not sure what that noise is. My other plasma cutter is not that noisy. So if you got any ideas, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and put this case back on and set it off to the side for now.